Wow, Bitcoin hitting $100,000? That's something else, isn't it?
Yeah, makes you think back to when El Salvador went all in on crypto, right?
Exactly. 2021, they made Bitcoin legal tender, just like that.
A bold move for sure.
And we're going to deep dive into that today.
Awesome.
We've got this report from the Associated Press, going to see what's actually happening in El Salvador now, a few years later.
Right, on the ground.
Yeah, beyond the headlines, this big risk payoff. Are regular people using Bitcoin? Let's find out.
It's been a while, and the ripple effects are going way beyond El Salvador. Other countries are.
Oh, yeah.
They're watching this closely, especially developing economies, to see how this all plays out.
Yeah, it's like everyone's holding their breath a little bit to see what happens.
Yeah.
Initially, Bukele, the president, he promised Bitcoin would be huge, right, for folks without bank accounts.
Right.
Lower those remittance costs, make the whole financial system more inclusive.
Absolutely, and that's key. For a lot of Salvadorans, traditional banks were just not accessible.
Yeah.
So this idea of a decentralized system, Bitcoin, even with, how much it goes up and down, it was appealing to some.
Oh, for sure. And to get things going, the government even offered $30 in Bitcoin.
Wow.
If you signed up for a digital wallet called the Chivo wallet.
Okay.
That's got to be tempting for people, right?
Oh, yeah. Definitely got people's attention. But the Chivo wallet itself, that's an interesting story.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they built it from scratch and incorporated some cool technology like the Lightning Network, so it could handle those everyday little transactions quickly and cheaply.
Lightning Network. Okay, for those of us who aren't like total crypto experts,
right.
Can you explain that a bit more?
Think of it as like an extra layer on top of the main Bitcoin network.
Okay.
It handles the smaller, more frequent transactions, which is perfect for everyday stuff. Speed and lower fees, that's the goal. Addressing those criticisms that Bitcoin was too slow and expensive for, like buying groceries and things.
Makes sense. So that's the technical side of things. But what about the people?
Right.
This AP report, it has some personal stories about Salvadorans and their experience with Bitcoin.
Yeah, those are important. They bring in the human side to all this economic theory,
Definitely.
Like take Esteban Escamilla. He works at a clothing store, decided to cash out his $30 right away. And now Bitcoin's over 100,000. He's probably kicking himself thinking, what if I had just held on to it?
Oof, yeah, I can feel that regret.
Right.
It's tough trying to figure out a whole new financial system when you're just trying to make ends meet.
Exactly. And then you have Josefa Torres. She used her Bitcoin to buy groceries, which is exactly what the government was hoping for.
Right.
But it makes you wonder, is that really financial empowerment?
Yeah.
Or is it just, doing the same things but with digital money?
That's a good point. Is it actually changing lives in a big way? Or just changing how we pay for things?
And that's where it gets really interesting. You've got these individual stories happening, but then you've got the bigger economic forces at play.
Right.
Like the IMF, they've been pretty vocal about El Salvador's Bitcoin gamble.
Yeah, they're not exactly Bitcoin fans, are they? They've talked about the potential risks quite a bit.
Yeah, well, one of their biggest worries is the volatility. How much Bitcoin goes up and down.
Right.
If it crashes, and remember, it's already dipped below 100,000 even after hitting that high, it could seriously mess up El Salvador's economy.
Wow.
Especially with how much the government has invested.
That's a scary thought. So that's like the worst case scenario. But didn't the IMF also say that some of the risks they were worried about haven't actually happened?
That's true. And it's worth noting that El Salvador's economy hasn't totally fallen apart.
Right.
At least not yet. But the IMF isn't giving them a free pass or anything. They're pushing for more transparency, especially around how much Bitcoin the government actually owns and how they're managing it all.
Yeah, it's not like Bitcoin comes with a rule book or anything.
Exactly. And this is where that term unrealized gains comes in, right? Carlos Acevedo, the former central bank president, he pointed out that even though the government's Bitcoin might look good on paper, it's not actually profit until they sell.
Ah, I see.
He's totally right. And it's important to get that distinction, especially when we're talking about a whole country's finances, right? If Bitcoin's value tanks before they cash in, those potential gains could just disappear, poof, gone.
Yeah.
And for a country like El Salvador, that could be really bad news.
It really shows the difference between taking a big risk and actually winning,
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's a tough balance, right? Trying to weigh those rewards against the risks. And then you have people like Carlos Acevedo. He's saying this recent Bitcoin surge, it's partly because of market optimism about a Trump administration.
And
he thinks people expect Trump to be more, friendly towards crypto.
Wow. So he's saying that El Salvador's whole Bitcoin plan is kind of writing on U.S. politics.
In a way, yeah, it definitely shows how global markets and politics are all connected.
Right.
So if that optimism about a pro-crypto environment goes away, Bitcoin could drop, and that would hit El Salvador's holdings hard.
Yeah, it makes you wonder, is it smart to tie your country's economy to something as unpredictable as Bitcoin?
Right, and even if El Salvador manages to dodge those economic risks, there's still the question of financial inclusion.
Right. That was a big reason they adopted Bitcoin in the first place. Right.
Yeah. Did it actually work? Are people without bank accounts actually better off? Or are we just seeing the same transactions happening in a different way?
It's hard to say for sure.
Yeah, we need to look closer at those individual experiences.
Like Josefa Torres buying groceries with Bitcoin, that's a step towards everyday use.
It is, but we need to look at the bigger picture. Did it really improve the lives of those who couldn't access traditional banking before?
And the AP report, it offers some insights into that.
Oh, yeah?
Remember Esteban, the clothing store worker who cashed out his $30 right away?
Yeah.
He might represent a whole group of people who, I don't know, maybe they don't fully get Bitcoin, or maybe they just can't afford to hold on to it as an investment.
That's a really good point. Financial inclusion isn't just about having the technology. It's about, financial literacy.
Right.
Understanding how this new system works, having the confidence to hold on to Bitcoin as an investment.
It's like a whole new way of thinking about money.
Exactly. And that's a big challenge, especially in a country like El Salvador with all its other, social and economic problems.
Absolutely. And then there's the political side of things, too.
Oh, right.
Bukele, he's been pretty vocal about pushing back against the critics.
Yeah, I've seen that.
He says the opposition is discouraging people from using Bitcoin and that it's actually hurting them financially.
So it's not just economics anymore.
No, it's become a really political issue.
It seems like Bitcoin has become this symbol of Bukele's leadership, his vision for El Salvador.
Yeah, but with all these complexities, is it really a gamble that's going to pay off for the country and its people?
That's the big question, isn't it?
Yeah.
We've seen the potential, the investment coming in, the possibility of financial inclusion, embracing new technology, but the risks are there too.
For sure.
The volatility, the dependence on, how the market feels, the need for regulations and financial education. It's a lot.
And then you have that wild card, Elon Musk.
Oh, yeah. What did he do?
So Bukele tweeted about Bitcoin hitting 100,000, and Musk replied, just said, impressive.
Huh. Interesting.
It might seem small, but when someone like Musk, with all his influence on crypto, acknowledges El Salvador, people notice.
For sure. It's interesting. Musk's tweet doesn't necessarily mean he's going to support them or invest.
Right.
But it does shine a spotlight on El Salvador. Some people might see it as like validation.
Yeah, that's true.
Adding to the hype around Bitcoin, maybe attracting more interest.
But wouldn't it be risky for El Salvador to rely on someone as, well, unpredictable as Musk?
Oh, absolutely. That's a good point. It's a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
His attention might help in the short term, but depending on him long term would be really shaky for any country.
It feels like El Salvador is walking a tightrope. Potential rewards on one side, big risks on the other.
Yeah, and what does all this mean for the average person in El Salvador? Are they excited about this? Or are they worried?
That's a good question.
Those personal stories are crucial here. We need to hear from the people actually using Bitcoin, those who are investing in it, and those who are still trying to understand it all.
Right.
Their experiences will ultimately tell us if El Salvador's big move was a success or a failure.
And that's what makes this deep dive so fascinating. It's not just about, some abstract economic theories. It's about the human impact, the hopes and the challenges, and all the uncertainty that comes with trying something completely new.
Absolutely. It's uncharted territory.
Makes you think, about the future of money, what role technology will play.
Yeah, definitely.
It's a lot to take in. That's why it's important to talk about this stuff, have these conversations.
Absolutely.
So let's turn it to you, the listener. Imagine you're in El Salvador right now. How would you feel about all this?
Would you be like jumping into Bitcoin, trying to catch that wave like Esteban? Or would you be, I don't know, holding on to your dollars, playing it safe?
Maybe somewhere in between, right? Trying to figure it all out.
Yeah, it's a tough decision.
A real dilemma, and it's bigger than just El Salvador. We're talking about the future of global finance, potential for disruption.
Right, and what happens when a country says, we're going all in on Bitcoin?
It's a huge experiment, and the whole world is watching.
Exactly. Will other countries follow their lead? Or will El Salvador become, a warning sign?
It's too early to tell, But the choices made in this small country, they could have huge consequences.
No doubt.
This deep dive has given us a lot to think about, and hopefully it's made you curious, too.
I hope so.
If you want to learn more, there's so much out there, articles, podcasts, documentaries. You can really go deep into the world of Bitcoin and its impact on El Salvador.
Yeah, keep learning, keep asking questions.
Exactly, and most importantly, keep forming your own opinions.
Couldn't agree more.
This is a story that's still unfolding. And the ending. Well, nobody knows how it's going to turn out.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens.
That's for sure.